Follows by John the Prince Sheeran. And we have, finally, back in the house, Mrs. Bridget, the HR Jan Karras. That's right. She is married to HR people. Welcome back to the show.
Lucky me. What a spicy life I lead.
Bridget, you have a very important life, and normally we would ask you about the updates of your travels, but John Sheeran just came back from a tour in the UK where he was promoting the number one Bengals podcast. John, how was it?
Oh, it was phenomenal. I think a lot of Bengals fans are familiar with our friends across the pond in old London town. I actually went to the Bengals bar there. It's called like the Admiralty Pub. Not a single ounce of Bengals memorabilia for whatever reason, even though I guess it is the off season over there, but I kind of expected at least some representation of the orange and black. But nevertheless, I'm always a fan of supporting, upcoming artists and, people who are trying to get their names out there. So I was told that there was this this young lady who was performing in Scotland. Her name is Taylor Swift. So she was performing over there, which I don't know if you've heard of her. Again, she's more of on the underground scene.
Yeah, not really young. I mean, if she's young, then I'm middle-aged, John.
Once or twice. I feel like maybe like sparkly jumpsuits or something. Like people are promoting those, and I feel So well, I might be familiar.
Well, she's more well known than at least I thought, I guess, and I guess the NFL kind of knows her a little bit too. Like this is only, I think, 30,000 of the 70,000 fans that she was there, but like the music is fine and everything. The music was great, the show is great, but really the mission was this girl obviously controls the NFL. So what better way to figure out how that process happens than by seeing how she effortlessly controls the crowd? And I can confidently say that the reasoning and the actuality behind her mastermind, which coincidentally she has a song called Mastermind, is I don't know. I'm still confounded by it. Like I'm still confused as to how she got the NFL under her spell. I saw countless Chiefs fans who weren't actually Chiefs fans wearing Chiefs jerseys. I was questioning them. They were bedazzled. They were starstruck. I came away with zero more information about the whole process and how she has the NFL under her gaze than when I did when I got there. But at least I got to see a good show out of it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, John. And we caught you actually on camera wearing a Travis Kelce jersey, by the way.
It was a UC Travis Kelce jersey because I put Travis Kelce on the map before Taylor ever did.
Okay.
Wait, how is that the case?
What do you mean?
How did you put him on the map? And so do we have you to blame for this? Like, I'm going to be honest. I know some people like Travis Kelce. I don't hate Travis Kelce because he's a Chief. I kind of don't like him because he seems like the ultimate jabroni. The irony of him throwing that out. How did you put him on the map? And is this your fault?
No, I think jabroni kind of comes from his nature as a Cleveland boy. He came from the wrong side of Ohio in the first place, but then he made his way to the right side of Ohio, and he actually lived 2 doors down from where I ended up living a couple of years later. So he's a fellow West Nixon guy in Clifton, and he's a chill dude. But he won UC the Belk Bowl like 11, 12 years ago. He got severely underdrafted based off of how fast and how athletic and how productive he was at UC. So I knew that he was a much better tight end than he was given credit for coming into the NFL. And I'm not surprised at all at the amount of sex and success that he's had ever since he got to where he is now. So I would like to say that I definitely put him on the map before, way before this Taylor Swift ever did.
Well, he did have his own dating show too. So what was it?
Catching Kelce.
Yeah. So
a lot of ladies caught Kelce, and hopefully the good kind.
It sounds like he's desperate.
Probably caught something.
He's always making these pleas to people to be his friend. But okay, John, back to what we do best on the show, the number one Bengals.
Yeah, it's a pretty short list.
Well, yes, but okay, look, here's the thing. John, Joe Burrow comes out, he says, I'm thinking about my football mortality. Not what you want to hear from a 27-year-old, right? I think Tom Brady first said that when he was like 46, right? But Joe Burrow's already thinking about it, John. And Zac Taylor was positive. He said, he's throwing, he's playing within the system, all that kind of stuff. But John, he had to take how many days off of practice? A lot of days off practice to rest the ligament in his wrist. And John, final piece of information here. He's learning the piano. Did you know this? Joe Burrow is learning to play the piano through YouTube. You would think he could afford a piano teacher, but he's learning through YouTube. John, it's his backup plan. A lot of guys get into media. He's already has a backup plan for after football.
To be a piano player, why wouldn't you get an actual teacher if that was his actual backup plan?
I don't know,
Maybe
John.
maybe he's your
cheap.
son. I don't know, but I know that Paul Alexander would be proud, the piano man himself.
That's true.
He didn't just come out and say that unprompted. He was asked about what he thought about his past injuries and if that has him thinking. I think about my mortality on the show all the time and whether or not the next one is going to be the end of me. And I really feel like after every single show, that question becomes more prominent. I'm sure Bridget can also kind of relate to that exact same fact. But no, I think it's natural for being 27 years old and having 2 season-ending injuries and a bunch of other injuries to kind of pile up. I think the fact that all these are kind of stacking up has definitely altered his thought process and how he addresses the offseason, addresses the ramp up to training camp in the preseason. And it's definitely different now than it was in years past when he wasn't didn't have as many injuries on the rap sheet as he does now.
I agree with you, John. As much as, it's the word mortality. We hear it and we're like the kid from Home Alone, which is also kind of apropos for Joe Burrow. But I would rather him be thinking about this and what it means to train well, to be ready for the season, because I think what we all know is like Joe Burrow is he's a fighter, he's a stalwart, he's going to stay in it. And what has that done? Well, did he maybe not heal as quickly with the calf injury because he pushed to start the season? I'm hoping this is less about football mortality and is actually about football maturity.
Wow, that was very deep, but I don't see it, Bridget, because the guy, like John said, I mean, his body is barely hanging in there. He has maybe one.
Arms.
He has maybe one of his original ligaments. Wouldn't you say, John? Maybe one original ligament left.
He's the ship of Theseus.
John, but here's the thing. He's getting thicker. He's getting chunkier. He's putting on the weight because he wants his body to be able to absorb those hits. But the Bengals, John, they're building a wall around him. They have. Did you hear that they put Trent Brown at the right guard? Imagine Trent Brown at right guard, Amarius Mims at the right tackle, and Orlando Brown at left tackle. That has got to be the biggest offensive line in history. I mean, that's crazy. But they're trying to do whatever they can to protect this man. I heard they're even going to put Drew Sample in, what is it, the H packages, the whatever packages, to get him in there as like a fullback or something.
Yeah, they kind of did that last year. I think the Trent Brown at right guard was more along the lines of not only getting him reps, considering he didn't get any reps during OTAs because he wasn't there, but also on more specific packages, typically near the goal line when you're running the ball, whatnot, because they have a solid guy in Alex Cappa, who, by the way, isn't short either. He's 6'6", like 320, so he's not a small dude by any means, but obviously Trent Brown makes 99% of offensive linemen look small, so it's a fun little package, but I don't think it's going to be like the main package.
Yeah, that's John. Wow, the innuendo today, fun little package. Listen, here's the thing I want to talk about, okay? Because a good friend of one of the hosts on the show is, a lot of people are thinking he's gonna be out of Cincinnati next year. He's gonna retire soon, but he just signed another 1-year deal. I'm talking about Ted Karras, of course. He just signed a 1-year deal. He's gonna be back. He said this place is home, and he did it wearing a Cincy hat, which he has sold. I don't know how many of these hats. So many hats. And obviously he looks back, he looks at that inventory and he's like, how can I ever live Cincinnati? It says it on my hat. Like, what other team could I use it for? I could maybe change it to City, go play for like the Jets or the Giants or Kansas City. But there's not a lot I can do with this hat that says Cincy on it. And now Cincinnati is his home. But John, even him, a lot of people are saying that he's going to be replaced by Matt Lee. Is that, it's like we're in the trans, and I think it was Zac Taylor who said, look, we're bringing a lot of young guys. It is a very transitional phase for the Bengals now. We don't really know what they're going to look like in a couple of years.
Well, at least we know that Ted Karras is here for 2025, and I think that's what made the deal notable compared to the rest of the team. He's kind of a grandpa. He's 31. He just turned 31. He's going to be under contract now until he's 32. And yeah, like compared to how the team has operated in recent years, this was a little bit unexpected. But I think Ted Karras, out of all the guys who could be the exception here, specifically just for a 1-year deal that is modest in terms of monetary value, just everything that he is, like, I think made him the exception. The fact that he is such a glue in that locker room, and there's been no boundaries as to what his influence and impact within Cincinnati has been. Like, just within the locker room, on the field, having the intensity of a nephew of a former wrestler. But, like, I think it was Paul Daniel Jr. who said, like, he could run for mayor, and I think he would probably win. He's that popular for being an offensive lineman, nonetheless, either. So, like, it's not just the Cincy he had. He's so involved in all these different community projects. He puts his name out there, and people just gravitate towards him, and it's just genuine, just kind of just personality and whatnot. And Bridget, like, you've interacted with him many times, and you've seen the work that he's done with the Cincinnati organization. It just makes a lot of sense why he became the exception for this team that typically doesn't pay guys his age at this point in his career.
I mean, I think folks know I've had the privilege of getting to volunteer. I now sling Cincy hats sometimes at certain events. Most recently, we sold almost $7,500, at least $7,500 worth of Cincy hats. So that goes to the village of Marici in Indianapolis. And I know Ted is doing a lot of work to think about what some of that housing for adults with disabilities, what that might look like in the Cincinnati or greater Cincinnati area. But like, I sold hats for 2 hours, $7,500. Folks were coming, like, they want to be part of it, right? And I think that's a really cool thing. Ted has been able to create this movement that enables Bengals fans to feel part of something, right? Like, it's kind of, I wear a Cincy hat a lot. It's kind of fun now when I'm at an airport or somewhere, like, you kind of make eye contact and you're part of something. Like, we already are Bengals fans, but this is actually contributing to something a lot of people really care about and has meant something. And I think Ted's accessibility has been so special. So when I was up in Dayton for the Logan Wilson softball game, Matt Rini and I were selling the Cincy hats. Ted texts Matt and says, "Hey, I'm going to be here around 2. Can I come sign hat?" Well, yeah, like, and I mean, the reception, and he is out there. He stayed out as long as he possibly could. I think he missed the home run derby, but like, that's just the kind of guy he is. He wants to meet everyone. He like genuinely cares about everyone. He's connecting his teammates and their philanthropic efforts to other folks. So I think folks know I can't say enough good things about what Ted Karras is doing for Indianapolis, the village of Marici, but what he also means to us here. And I think if I can be on my soapbox one minute longer, I think this is the really special thing about mid-market teams too. We get to feel like we know some of these guys. I went golfing or Top Golf with the O-line as something I'd bet on as with the Bengals captain in the Hubei as part of the Free Store Food Bank Taste of Bengals. And the O-line came and just, you could see it in Orlando Brown and Alex Kappa and Cordell Volson. Like, Ted is kind of bringing them in and bringing the Cincinnati love to these guys. To hear Orlando Brown talk about how much he loves this city. I mean, he's like, I have a house in Oklahoma and I've been other places in, Kansas City, Baltimore, but he's like, nothing has ever felt like Cincinnati. And I think there's just a really special, like, mid-market feeling that makes us feel like family in a way that, like, the Jets and the Rams, it's just never going to feel like that.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely doesn't feel like a Jet or a Ram. It feels more like cheese. We have a lot of cheese here. We eat a lot of cheese. But I totally get it. I love Ted Karras. Look, who can forget when he defended the entire city of Cincinnati in front of the Tennessee Titans fans after that divisional round?
Bengals Whitney said this on a show we did once. He cemented his legend in Cincinnati that day. Like, right up yours, Tennessee is that's got to be one of the top 10 greatest moments as a Bengals fan.
I think a lot of people don't realize, since the days of Sam Wyche, we went like 30 years of being, even when we had the Marvin Lewis teams that did well, we were still kind of like, we felt lucky to be there for any big opportunity. That's changed with Joe Burrow. That's changed with, Ted Karras, obviously. Von Bell, who's back. We're really happy about him. And, I would say even the guy, John, who we saw in the opening clip, we saw Mike Hilton. That's another question. How much longer is he going to be here?
You know what's funny about Ted, though, is like, if you didn't know any better, if you like just knew that he was on the team and you knew that the work that he did, you would think that he has been here for like 10 years. He's only been here for like, it's been like just over 2 years. So the fact that he's made this kind of impact and has done all this work and has cemented his legacy within just this community in just 24, 25 months is just absurd to me. And it speaks to the character that he has. And obviously this decision doesn't happen if he isn't good at football, and he's still a decent enough center to, solidify an offensive line that has been consistently embattled, and he's been a consistent stalwart in that. Even if he's not one of the top players at his position, he's still getting the job done at 31 years old, and I think he's done enough to make sure that, he can still play this level for the next 2 years, which obviously went into the decision as well.
I mean, and he's basically like, he's got a small cult now. There's at least 500 or more people running around with that Cincy hat logo tattoo. I mean, this man got people to like tattoo a logo on their bodies. Yeah. That's insane.
John
it's
would
cool.
not do that. I told him, I said, John, put a QR code so people can go straight to our Patreon. I just said, you don't have to put it on your forehead. It can be on your cheek. He wouldn't do it. John wouldn't do it. By the way, that's our Patreon. You can go right there.
You wouldn't tattoo your face, John?
No, but I did wear it since he had the airport, and I did start a conversation from it, so it does work.
Well, speaking of our Patreon, thank you for that segue, John. If you go to our Patreon, here's the thing. John, we were just chatting today. If we get a StreamYard account, not only can we change the background, not only can we get rid of that duck in the corner of the screen that is obviously distracting you from the great content here, but we can stream to 8 different places at the same time. You can watch us on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on John's Twitter. He has a lot of followers. You can watch us all of these different places. And we can have up to 12 people in the stream, 10 people on the screen, which means we can have guests in and we can have 250 people in the live stream. So if you want to be on our show, all you have to do is go to patreon.com/dhsports, help us get the Pro StreamYard account, and there you go.
I'm sorry, is that a duck or is that a duke?
Yeah, that's a good question, John. I don't even know what a duke is. Okay, here's the thing, John. Zac Taylor was talking to the media today, and he talked about a few players. He talked about Chase Brown. Chase Brown, we all saw his speed. He's very fast. But Zac was talking about the fact that we've seen noticeable, real, positive growth. That he's listening, that there's things they told him 4 months ago, and he has internalized them, John. He's growing. He's only, second, third year? I mean, he's a still young guy. And I know we got Zac, that guy, Zac running back. Moss. And
running back. I hope it just says running back on the back
rhyme,
of his
though.
jersey.
It does kind of flow. I see why he did that.
Zac, right? John, you might need to do a rap for us. If Zac Moss has a hell of a season or a hell of a game, we might need a Zac running back rap.
Is running back his middle name, or is it just part of his last name?
I wasn't finished.
Running is
Zac the running back.
Zac running back.
Zac the running back Moss. That's what I was trying to say. John, we have him. He seems like more like your prototypical starter. But come on, let's give Chase Brown a chance. What do you think?
I think he's gaining more of a chance.
He's getting more of a chance, yeah.
More than just a chance is what I meant to say.
Really? You think he's going to be the starter?
No, okay, throw that word out the window. Like
Running
wherever your
back?
nearest window is, throw a moss stone at it and just break it. Right? I don't think like a starter exists anymore. I think that kind of went out when Joe Mixon was traded. I think Moss and Brown kind of work in tandem as two guys who do things very similarly, have similar skill sets, and can be used in similar ways. So there could be some weeks where Chase Brown gets more touches than Zac Moss. There could be some weeks where Zac Moss gets significantly more than Chase Brown. But I don't think it's going to be a consistent thing where like Moss is getting 70-80% of the touches,
really,
and Chase Brown is barely getting any behind it. I think that
is this just a guess, or is this
no,
inside information?
It's not. It's just based off of just what Zac Moss has always kind of been with the Colts and the Bills. Who Chase Brown can be. We saw as he got more touches as the late part of the season kind of progressed, the better that he got, the better the offense was. I don't think there's any reason why Chase Brown shouldn't be significantly more involved, and it's hard to be significantly more involved while continuing this dynamic of having a running back just hog, 80% of the workload. I think naturally it's going to be more even, and in some cases it's going to be scheme and matchup and opponent dependent on maybe Chase Brown gets more of these touches because maybe the scheme calls for more of these runs. Maybe he's better at it compared to Zach Moss, but Zach Moss is still the veteran. You can still rely on him in pass protection. You can still rely on him to run out of the shotgun. So I really do think it could be a case where it's week by week. We might see one more than the other.
I love to hear that because Chase Brown does excite me. And Zach Moss, look, I get that Zach Moss is a better fit for a run blocking, a scheme and all that, but I like Chase Brown. John, next question. Unless Bridget has a follow-up.
I would just say, I think we've got to get Brown more touches because this is just me maybe being hopeful. Chase Brown's speed and agility, like what we were able to see a few times on the field last year, Mixon had been great for us. I feel like the last, he's had really bright moments in the past couple seasons, some games where it's like, we're just not getting it going. I think Chase Brown can be really, really special. And I'm hopeful they don't sit him on the sideline and too much and don't let him get the reps and the maturity, because I would love to see what kind of player this guy will be by the end of the season and into next season.
Yes, agreed. Next, I want to talk about the tight end situation. John, people are already writing off Tanner Hudson. May I remind people that Tanner Hudson is the first guy that looked like a real tight end in a long time on the Cincinnati Bengals? He looked good, John. He looked as good as Uzama, who people were like, oh, we can't believe, oh, we lost Uzama. Oh, what a big deal, Now he's out of the league. But Tanner Hudson looked better than him last year.
Okay, but like, what do we do with that information? Are we supposed to feature?
No, people
Tanner
are
Hudson's
like
starter.
People think he's just a nobody now because we drafted like 15 tight ends.
They drafted 2.
Yeah.
And those guys are going to make the team. And Tanner Hudson's going to make the team. He's probably tight end number
Gesicki. Now they're saying,
at,
Gesicki is this, Gesicki is that.
Gesicki's better. Like, he's more talented. He's more
He can't
proven.
block, John. He can't block. He's a big
Can Tanner
right wide
Hudson
receiver.
block?
I don't know. He barely played last year.
No, because Tanner Hudson, the majority, like Tanner Hudson's role and Mike Gesicki's role is very similar in terms of what they do and where they're lined up, and I think that's why you have both of those guys. If something happens to one of them, tight end is a position where injuries are very frequent, no matter where you line up on the field. It's very nice to have 2 guys who can do similar things and have similar skill sets and athleticism and catch radii. Like, I think it opens the door to be more liberal with how you can use Mike Gesicki, knowing that Tanner Hudson can just slide into that role with ease, and he has obviously a connection in history working with this offense, working with Joe Burrow from what happened last year. So just because you have 2 new tight ends who are still obviously going to have to learn the system and acclimate themselves within the offense. Eric All hasn't even practiced yet because he's still recovering from injuries. So Tanner Hudson's obviously ahead of those guys, and he'll get obviously snaps to start the season, but I'm interested to see how much he plays, considering that there is a better version of him as the starter, Mike Gesicki.
I don't know about that, John. Tanner Hudson, he showed some grit. He showed some real attitude for the Bengals last year.
Yeah, and that's why he's still here. That's why he got signed.
And he had good chemistry with Joe Burrow. I mean, Irv Smith was supposed to be this physical, talented guy, and look what happened.
I know, but I don't think anyone thinks Irv Smith is better than Mike Gesicki.
Interesting.
I mean, I will proudly stand on the fact that I thought Irv Smith was a terrible choice to sign. I got Lel Collins vibes, and I told someone that in June of 2023. I may have told Ted Karras that in June of 2023. I said Irv Smith is a terrible choice.
What about okay?
So this also could be my fault, but we haven't had good luck with signing free agents off of injury.
Hold on. What do you say about Trent Brown then? What vibe is he giving you?
Great. O-line is giving me great vibes. Amarius Mims is giving me like young baby Ted Karras in terms of how much he is loving being in Cincinnati. I got to say hi to him really quickly at a Reds game a few weeks ago. That sweet baby boy is so happy to be here. We'll talk to anyone who comes up to him. He at the Logan Wilson game went down the line, like, you know, they have gated off where the players go. That giant sweet boy went down the line, signed, took pictures with everybody, then came back up. He was the only one who, no matter who wanted an autograph, who wanted to see him, talked to everyone. And I think Trent Brown will be great, but I think like my heart is swelling for Mims. I really hope he gets some shots, and I hope he is phenomenal, because I think he's another one that just is going to love being here, and that this city and the fan base will wrap their arms around if they can fit. I mean, he's pretty big.
I think it's funny you called him baby boy when he weighs 4 times as much as you.
Yeah, but he's got like metal braces. He's a baby.
Those braces. John, you're on mute.
He's just a wee lad. That was worth going on.
John just got back from Ireland.
I couldn't understand you with that accent,
Close.
John.
Wrong kingdom.
Okay, look, John, last thing I want to talk about, okay? Pro Football Focus, they released their safety rankings. Do you know where Geno Stone was ranked? Don't look.
Higher.
Overall safety.
Oh, probably like 20.
John, you looked.
No, I didn't.
This
Is it
John
actually
guy.
20? Is it actually 20?
20, yeah.
Let's go.
I trust John's integrity fully. Like, he didn't look. You could see it. He was thinking. John's just really, really smart.
Yeah, well, he has to make up for not Bridget, but me and Hoji. Okay, look. Next question. Jesse Bates, where was he?
2.
You looked.
I swear. Hold on, let me share my screen.
John looked.
I hope it's like ridiculous gifs or memes.
No, he's editing like 15 articles at the same time because he works at like 5 different places. Okay, so yes, here's the thing, John. I am excited about Geno Stone. I really am. You know that. I was very upset when Jesse Bates left, and I was constantly throughout the season. I was like, if we could only stop the middle of the field, if we could only stop the big plays from the receivers, forget tight ends, just the receivers, and we couldn't. Now we have Geno Stone, John, who I forgot, but he's like top 5 or 10, in terms of pass defense. He's great at pass defense, right? Mm-hmm. But he was like 90th in run defense for safeties. And we got Von Bell, we got Jordan Battle, but John, is it going to work out the way we think it's going to work out? Jordan Battle's on the rise, right? And Von Bell we know who he is, but there's a reason he was cut. I mean, he's declining. He's not physically what he was.
Or the Panther, the Panthers have just imploded. Like,
fine.
They cut anyone.
Fine, but I mean, there's a reason, John. I mean, the Bengals did. If he was still a great elite athlete, which he is, but I mean NFL standards for his position, he probably would have had another offer for $10 million or so somewhere, right?
Who would have had an offer?
Von Bell.
No. I don't think so. I think it's definitely better than it was last year, and it's all relative, right? Because I think looking back, the idea of Nick Scott, who was never a capable starter in the first place, coming in to potentially be more than what he already was or what he will ever be, and then Dax Hill learning a new position as his first year as a starter, that plan should have definitely been scrutinized more when it was unfolding before we saw the results of it. I think now you have 3 true safeties who at least have, in Battle's case, he's only got like a half a year of experience, but it was a quality half year, especially with a bunch of fires going around him in his fellow secondary, and you had very minimal trust in the position that he was playing at all, so he exceeded a lot of expectations. Von Bell's a proven commodity within this scheme, and athleticism was never really a strong suit to begin with, so I don't think he's really slowed down as much compared to where he was just a year and a half or 2 years ago. And then Geno Stone, I don't think he's going to be the 7-interception guy every single year. He was a great fit within Mike McDonald's scheme in Baltimore, which no longer exists because he's no longer in Baltimore. So that to me, that's like the biggest question mark, is like the guy who's getting paid the most. Like, how is Geno Stone going to perform now that he's like the guy at the position where he's not being rotated in with the likes of Marcus Williams's and Kyle Hamilton's? He was given the starter's role when Marcus Williams was out, and he really took advantage of it. But again, like I think just having just that small of a sample size, it's very much like Trey Hendrickson when he came from New Orleans, and he had 1 year starting experience, and he really popped off, and then he ended up getting a deal that a lot of people thought was too much, and the Bengals were banking on a very small sample size, so they're banking on him fitting into the scheme as well as he fit in with his previous one, and just the more opportunities that he get, the more consistent he'll become and the better, more rounded player that he will be. But at the very least, the guy he's playing next to at safety and the cornerbacks, they're going to be solid enough to make sure that he's not sticking out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, but John, okay, good point. But let me ask you something. Mike McDonald, is that the Baltimore guy?
Former Baltimore guy, now Seattle.
Oh, that's right. Lou Anarumo. Who's more of a wizard in terms of the disguising coverages?
So like that's the thing, right? That's what Lou was able to do with Bates and Bell, because those guys could be trusted to show one coverage before the snap and then dive off into different shells after the snap. That's how they were able to confuse the likes of Mahomes during those key games. He wasn't able to do that when he couldn't trust his safeties. So the defense was a lot more predictable, a lot more explosive plays happened because of it. It neutralized the pass rush because it wasn't able to get home in time, because there were just gaping vacancies open because you had communication issues within the secondary. I think the reason why Von Bell was immediately starting out there over Jordan Battle was just because like they know that he knows what he's doing, and he can get guys lined up, and you won't have the linebackers worried that these guys are going to be out of position, so they can play faster. Everyone just plays faster when everyone knows that the guys who are backing up the entire defense are on the same page. And I think it's up to Geno Stone to get acclimated as fast as possible. That's why he's at the hip of Von Bell throughout all these workouts and these practices, to make sure that he is on the same page with him, because he has natural ability. He has the proven ability to play the specific position of free safety. It's just a matter of getting the communication up to where it was Jesse Bates, so that Lou Anarumo can then go back to these coverages that he couldn't do last year.
I love it.
That's
Bridget.
a mic drop. I can't say anything after that.
I didn't understand it. I just know it's right.
I have a cat on my lap, but like that's
Matilda.
it. She's back, guys.
Hey.
She's living her. She's just hoping Joe Burrow wants to come on the cat show sometime. Remember, Joe Burrow, you're a cat guy. We could. John has one. I have one. We could do the cat podcast.
Mine's on the floor. Being lazy.
No, I have nothing to say to that. And I followed all of it. John, you have the most soothing, like, I'm like, oh, I could listen to you, like, read the phone
We should really
book.
have John on the show more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should. We should. John needs his own show where it's just John. And
Sounds
maybe.
awful.
Well, no, it sounds pretty good to me. All right. Is that all we have? I think that's all we have. So don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, read John's articles at a2zsports.com/Cincinnati, and support John and the rest of humanity at patreon.com/dhsports.
Let's get John's podcast mortality lower.
Yes.
That's what we want.
Yes.
Please give him your money.
Yes, we need to keep John in good health. And for Bridget H.R. John Karras and John the Brain Shearer, I'm Dede Bektuk. We'll see you next time. So long, sweetie. Bye.
Zach, running back. This is Burrow playing the piano.